lot of times people feel that, hey, if Mahesha or Shiva is associated with demolition or destruction, does it mean that it is not good to pray to Shiva? And I laugh about it that, hey, demolition can be that of your bad thoughts. Demolition can be in many ways. Why are you taking yourself so seriously that you are going to be the one who is going to cause the demolition of the world? Hello and namaste, and thank you so much for visiting my channel. My name is Karthik Gaur, and please do subscribe and click the bell icon to ensure that whenever we upload a webinar or a video, you are the first ones to know. Thank you so much. And what we are going to do is a very, very interesting topic. For somebody who started Jyotish at a very young age, who comes from a very logical background, somebody who was always into engineering and things like that, project management, etc. For me, I wanted to dedicate my time to knowledge, to something that would be of use to me, something which was logical, something that was tangible, and something that I can always use it in my day-to-day life. And the very reason that it's been almost 2 decades for me to learn and spread the Jyotish knowledge is a testimonial to the wonderful knowledge of the ancient rishis. And the topic that we are going to cover today is Shri Surya, and more importantly, how to plan your day. Now, there are 2-3 ways of planning your day. I'm going to start off with the part 1 of it, which is based on the transit of Surya. Okay, now there are other ways as well, based on the 11th Lord, based on many other factors. Okay, but as we say that we need to go step by step. Okay, and one more thing, please share your questions in the comment section. As we discussed before, it is very important for you all to spread this knowledge and subscribe to your views as well. Okay, and we are going to have a fantastic session today, and I'm sure you are not going to be let down. And what do we expect from today is understanding the king. Okay, and we have already done Surya in detail when we talked about the Navagrahas. Okay, and the Vishnu Avatara, which is related to Sri Ram. Now, a lot of times people don't understand that actually there are not 9 avatars of Vishnu, but actually there are 10. They are called as Dashavatara. Okay, and the avatar related to your Lagna is the Kalki avatar, the one that who has not yet been incarnated. So Kalki avatar is something which will be incarnated much later at the end of Kali Yuga, and he will be the one who will actually bring the order and in a way demolish the Lagna for the new age to come, or starting of the new cycle of birth and rebirth, or starting of Satyuga, or some things like that. Frankly speaking, I am not aware, but definitely there are a lot of sutras, there are a lot of things written in the Agni Purana and other Puranas in terms of the whole resurrection happening and the correction happening, and Kalki Avatar will be the one who is actually going to ensure that the whole world order comes into the context. And more importantly, he is going to be there when it has to be a Kali Yuga, which is going to go into a very, very dark age. The things which are mentioned are quite horrible. When a man starts eating a man, or when a mother starts eating a child, so it means that the types of crime or the types of news that we'll get is very, very horrible. That's the time probably Lord Vishnu is going to say enough is enough, and I need to sort of rework the whole thing, and the whole thing about Om. Most of you understand the context of Om being Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, and the concept of creation, concept of sustenance, and then the concept of demolition, or sort of restarting the whole concept of creation again. Okay, a lot of times people feel that, hey, if Mahesha or Shiva is associated with demolition or destruction, does it mean that it is not good to pray to Shiva? And I laugh about it that, hey, demolition can be that of your bad thoughts. Demolition can be in many ways. Why are you taking yourself so seriously that you are going to be the one who is going to cause the demolition of the world? Frankly speaking, we don't need to worry, because it's still, many, many, many years left for the real Kali Yuga to start. What we call it as Ghora Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga also works in different padas, one which is just the starting part, then, it becomes a little bad, then it becomes little more bad, and then it comes a horrible stage. So horrible stage is when the last Avatara or the 10th Avatara of Vishnu will be formed, and that is called as Kalki Avatara, and that is associated with your Lagna. And a lot of you who understand probably Jagannath Puri temple, etc., they are already praying so for years and years there have been prayers for the Kalki Avatar also, and there is a temple associated with it, and everything is being done for years together. Okay, so that is the belief that the tradition has, and they truly believe in the concept of Kalki Avatar, which will be there at the end of Kali Yuga. Okay, so we are going to talk and understand a little bit about the king. Now, when we talk about the king, a lot of times we feel that the king is somebody, who is very rich. The king is somebody probably who has got a lot of resources, or people working under them. That is part of an attribute of a king. Okay, but the greatest attribute of a king is the one who has a top eye view, somebody who understands a lot of things going around, somebody who understands the nitty-gritties of the operation, so to say, and somebody who takes the maximum pressure because he knows what's exactly happening. Within an organization, there is a manager, then there is a general manager, and there is the CEO or MD. Now the MD has got a better sort of understanding, because he has the sales figure, he has the emails from finance also in terms of how much of finance is left, and then there are emails from HR also, where probably HR is recommending that, hey, we need a certain staff to be hired or a certain staff to be fired. So king at the end of the top, he is able to consolidate everything, and he has a top eye of understanding of what's happening. And probably if he has got multiple organizations, multiple companies, then he has got an even bigger view in terms of the overall P&L statement, or understanding which company is doing fine, or which vertical of my company is doing fine, which probably even a general manager might not be aware. So you need to understand that a king in a traditional format is also the one who is taking the maximum pressure, or who has the maximum knowledge. So who is the king in your horoscope? It can be Surya. It is also your Atmakaraka. Atmakaraka is the planet which is going to gain the highest degree, and we will talk about it in coming times, just to understand that how those karakas work. Okay, so we are going to talk about the king in general. We are going to also understand the basic understanding of how to plan the day. Now, as I told, there are many ways you can plan, and planning your day is something which has to be attributed to the king. Why king? Because ultimately we all want to please our king, right? So if you are in the government, or king can be a boss. So if we are in a government, then obviously the person whom we are reporting is frankly the king for you. Now his manager or the ultimate boss is somebody who doesn't even know you exist. You understand? So who is our king? The one that we are reporting to. Frankly speaking, in our chart, to a large extent, it is your Atmakaraka. Or in a horoscope, Surya can be attributed as the king as well. So currently, we are going to start off with the concept of understanding how to understand Surya a little, and how time progresses. So there is a time for spirituality, there is a time for work, there is a time when not to work, right? So people who always constantly bring work to their home and tire themselves by working 24/7, over a period of time, they do that at the cost of their health, and then all the money that they have earned, they end up spending in the hospital bills. So frankly speaking, what have they gained? Plus they have lost the time that they should have spent probably having a holiday, or probably being with the family, or probably just de-stressing themselves to ensure their body is able to recover, rejuvenate, and be ready for the chariot next day. What does sun do? It has got huge energy, it has got a lot of Agni, but then it doesn't take it beyond a period. It also understands that, hey, after 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. or 7 p.m., depending on the setting time of the sun in your area, it is going to say that, hey, I'm going to loosen up a little, I'm going to take a chill pill, I'm going to talk with people around, I'm going to have a good evening, and then I'm going to sleep on time to ensure that 6 a.m. the next morning I have to be in the field, I have to be in my office. But the working hours of Surya are a little different from working hours of a human being. So we are going to try to understand a little more into it. Okay. And then some Upadesha and tips for prosperity. Okay. Now, first and foremost, let us understand the step 2 of understanding Surya. We have already understood in step 1 that, oh, he is fantastic and he is the king, he is shining, he is radiating, and he is the giver of Jyotisha, etc. Now, let us understand step 2 of it, or the higher version, or the part 2 of the Upadesha. Now, as and when each one of you starts becoming a serious student, you need to start understanding what is the best astrologer, or does the sutras have a clear demarcation in terms of who a great astrologer is? And yes, the sutras, the Varamira, and the other texts talk about a term called as Trikalagya. Trikalagya is the one who can see past, present, and the future brilliantly. So many times I have seen clients tell that, hey, we went to that astrologer, he is always able to predict the past very well, but he is somehow not able to predict the future that well. Or sometimes I've seen people who are able to predict future, but when it comes to understanding the past, etc., they completely make a mess of it. So what I'm trying to say is that this word called Trikalagya is very tough to achieve, and it requires years and years of your tapasya, years and years of mantras to ensure that ultimately that digestion happens. Ultimately Saraswati blesses you as well. Why do certain astrologers who are brilliant astrologers not get any prediction right? Though when you talk to them, they know all the concepts, they are brilliant. The problem is somewhere down the line they are not blessed with that Saraswati, that second house, that tongue. Somewhere down the line that doesn't support them, as a result of which they are not able to get that fame, or they are not able to get that respect among their colleagues, because none of their predictions stick right. Though when you talk to them one-to-one, they are brilliant Jyotishis. So you understand, this word Trikalagya is a very, very important word. And understanding the past, present, which is the now, and the future is something very, very important. If you understand, in the previous videos, I have talked about the concept of trines, especially when I was teaching you the houses, the 12 houses of a horoscope. Please go ahead and check those videos, and you will get a great clarity. And over there I was talking to you that the 9th house, or the 9th lord, becomes a very, very important aspect of your horoscope, because it is telling you all your past karmas, good or bad. And generally, if that 9th lord is very well placed, that frankly speaking, half of the battle is won. Now, why did I say that? Because that 9th lord is going to protect you in this birth. It is almost like a traveler's check with which you have come. In olden days, I remember, I don't know if it happens now, whenever you used to travel to a foreign country, you took that traveler's check of maybe $1,000, $2,000, so you don't have to collect the cash with you, and that risk factor is not there. In today's time, we probably have those cards, where you load maybe 5,000 euros, 10,000 euros, whatever it is, and rather than taking the cash with you, you always take those privilege cards or the cards which are always full with cash. Your ninth lord is almost similar to that card, where you don't have to worry because there is a certain amount of good karmas which you are carrying forward, which almost nullifies. It is almost like an antivirus which is going to protect your PC or protect you from your data getting corrupted. Or those helmets which take care of you when there is a huge thing happening, or a shock absorber of a car. So that ninth lord of past becomes such an important aspect of a horoscope. And what does Maharishi Parashara say? You look at the ninth lord of Rashi, Navamsha and Shashtiyamsha to understand the amount of good luck that a person is born with. Now that is where the rectification comes into the picture. A lot of you might be a beginner, so don't start looking at your Navamsha and Shashtiyamsha. Probably they might be a wrong Shashtiyamsha. There is a certain level of rectification that is required to ensure that the time of birth is correct. And that is a completely different topic. I'm not touching in that as of now. But nonetheless, the ninth house of the trine is associated with your past karmas. Now that past karma can also be bad, as a result of which sometimes we see a child, who is suffering, with a terrible disease at a young age. Autism or a child being born blind. Sometimes you feel for them that, hey, what are the karmas they have done to actually be born blind or born handicapped or born autistic? It's all in the ninth lord. Probably they have come with a debit note. Probably there is something which is pending. So rather than the card having loaded dollars or euros, the moment they insert the card, it sort of says that, hey, there is a pending limit where you have to pay the bank 5,000 euros. So from the time from which they are born, poor guy is always paying the debts. And to a large level, we feel bad. You understand? Hence, the karmic understanding in a chart is to be done first by an astrologer. And technically, a Trikalagya would be able to infer that to a great length. Trying to understand where the curse is coming from, trying to understand what is going right and what is going wrong. Can I do something to enhance luck? And believe me, hard work takes you to a certain level. I'm not denying the importance of hard work. I'm somebody who works very, very hard. But I'm also not denying the role of a luck. You need to be lucky beyond a certain point, because frankly speaking, at that level, when you are at an Olympic race, the number 1, number 2, number 3 are almost similar. And it all depends on where the luck favors on that particular day. The difference between probably that 200 meters runner is 0.1 second, 0.2 seconds, God knows 0.001 second. And then it's a tightrope walk. And what happens beyond ninth lord? Why not? That is your father, that is the boss. So all our luck at a very, very initial level is associated with the ninth house of father. And ask anybody who has lost a father at a very young age, or who has not got the love of the father. There is a psyche problem. There is a little bit of a confidence issue. So very, very important. Ask anybody who has had a sort of bad experience with their guru. Somewhere down the line, that whole house of spirituality, or let us say dharma, is something, gets shaken. And they start believing that, hey, this is all crap. I don't believe in it. And they suddenly start telling wrong things and having a very negative notion about that ninth house. Where is your lagna? So what happens is the future of the ninth house is the lagna. So depending on your upbringing, depending on the luck that you have had, with your father or whatever it is, Based on that, you are going to shape your future. And hence they say that early years are most important. I remember speaking a few years back to those encyclopedia people, and they say that our biggest USP of selling our books is that we tell our clients that, hey, the first 12 years are the most important years of your child, because that is the time when the brain is able to take, is able to receive the maximum part of what is being taught. And it is purely based on the Naisargik Dashas of astrology. But that is the way that those people sell their encyclopedia, and which is the right sort of a way of doing it. And that is a fact. So what happens is, if we have got those books, we have got the toys, we have got the good upbringing, we have got good education, we have to give a certain amount of credit to our ninth lord. Not everybody is lucky. Not everybody is lucky to be in a safe country. The other day I was just taking a walk and somebody, kept the bag on the ground. And not for a second I thought that, hey, there could be something else in the bag, because I'm living in such a safe country. Now the same thing, if it would happen in some other country, definitely I would feel a little scared that, hey, what is there in that bag? Will it blow off? What is it? I don't know about it. So it is so important to count our blessings also, which is a very, very important thing that you need to do every day morning. And I'll be talking about it when I talk about Chandra. But we tend to take a lot of things which come to us by God's grace or by luck. We tend to take it very easily. We don't understand that how important it is that food is in our table. So that ninth house is shaping our Lagna. What is Lagna? Lagna is your present. What you are thinking at this point of time is going to shape your future. What you are doing now is going to shape your future. Or how are you behaving now is going to shape your child's future, which is your fifth house. Are you saving something? So tomorrow, God forbid, something happens to you. Do you have a security for your child? Have you taken an insurance policy? Have you taken a critical illness? Or have you saved something by which, God forbid, something happens to you, the ninth house of your child doesn't get defunct? Because from the fifth house, the ninth house is Lagna. So what is the past of your child? It is the Lagna. Your Lagna rather, because you are the father of your child. Or what is your future? Your future is your fifth house. But who is shaping that future? You are shaping it as of now. So you understand, it's such a logical understanding of the whole concept of trine. If you are putting in effort to learn Jyotish today, it will help you tomorrow, which is your fifth house. Whatever you have learned before is helping you now as well. Before, it's in the past. It's your ninth house. It's helping you today, your Lagna. Based on which you say that, hey, I'm an insurance agent, or I'm into branding, or I'm into banking, or whatever profession it is. So you understand that the Trikalagya, or the trine of, or the triangle of Durga, is so important for you to shape your future. And the moment one of that wheel sort of defuncts, that triangle is not able to hold on, or what we call it as tripod of life. We all use a tripod. I'm currently using a mic, which is on a nice tripod, and depending on how well it is, the mic is going to hold well. Otherwise it is going to shake. Otherwise it's going to fall because the base is not strong. So what are we trying to say? That each house is also dependent on the trines from that particular house. Okay. Now, coming back to the whole concept of Trikalagya. See, within the Jyotish field, there are three types of understanding of Trikalagya. What are the three types? Now, I talked about the trine from a Jyotish perspective. But then there are 3 levels of knowledge. One is the knowledge of your level, the human part of it and understanding what's happening today, etc. One is the solar level, what is happening with the planets, are the planets happy with you, etc., etc. And the other is the level of God, which is the third level, that are the gods happy with you, or depending on the prashna, what are the karmas being done as a result of which God is unhappy with you. So that is called as the 3 levels of learning Jyotish. And the best way to understand it, or the best way to go towards it, is nothing but purity of heart. And hence we always say that, hey, the 4th house becomes so important. Somebody who is a very pure person, or somebody who is a very innocent person, is something that we all get very attracted to very normally. In today's time, sometimes you can be called a fool, no doubt, but there is some amount of innocence which is always going to help you. Why? Because deep inside in your heart, you're very clean. Once you are clean, you are able to absorb the knowledge without a prejudice. Okay, and that is very important. See, Parashara was blessed, with a son like Vedavyasa. And you all know who is Vedavyasa, the one or a rishi who can actually, write all our sutras, write all our Puranas, and also, logically, map them to the 4 Vedas. He is somebody, who has to be brilliant. Just to clean up our shelf or our home, we just don't understand where to keep the pot, where to keep this lamp and all those things. We can't understand that. And imagine this great rishi, who went ahead and not only wrote, but also ensured that, the 4 Vedas were perfectly managed and everything was written and segregated. Oh, what a mind. And hence to call him just a rishi, frankly, is something which is tough for me. He anyways was said to be the joint avatar of Shiva and Vishnu. Means Vedavyasa is always looked up to. And what better than today? Because today is said to be as Rishi Panchami. And the mantra that he has given, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, or Om Vyam Vedavyasaya, okay, or Om Namo Bhagavate Vedavyasaya. There are different mantras. Simple Om Guruve Namah is the best that we are starting with. Okay, but nonetheless, today is a fantastic day to actually remember or to meditate on Vedavyasa or the Vyasa Yantra that we all know of. Okay, now detachment is also very important to learn Jyotish, and I always tell this to every new budding astrologer. The moment you start seeing your own horoscope, it's a problem. Why? Because you will end up making yourself as a great avatar. You will always start seeing similarity between your chart and Lord Rama chart. You will always feel that, hey, you are the greatest blessing to the earth. You won't be able to see the truth in your chart, or for that matter, the truth in people who are around you. That's the reason, whenever I have a consultation, let's say when I have a strategic decision related to my life, I will always speak to some other astrologer, or I'll speak to my Gurudev in terms of what is to be done. And many a times, there will be a situation where he'll say that, hey, this is so clear. Why are you getting confused? The answer is we always get confused because it is our chart. Okay, so that is the first sort of a very, very important sort of a advice that, don't look at your chart, very frequently. Don't look at your son, daughter, husband, boyfriend, very, very close people's chart, because you will always falter. You will never be able to be unbiased. Okay, and if that happens, then to that extent, you are not doing justice to yourself or your family members, because you are not giving them the right remedies. For example, my sister's son is not keeping well, then I will ensure that, I will do a basic sort of a thing, and then I will take a second opinion and I'll put that second opinion over my opinion, because it is important that, that second opinion is coming from an unbiased astrologer and emotions are not there. You understand? So it is so important that we need to understand, and once you have a clean heart, then everything else happens automatically. You need to respect the guru, you need to respect the lineage, you need to respect the knowledge. Nobody is perfect and nobody is God. So the moment, you sort of go with that presumption that, nobody is perfect, you will be able to forgive and forget very easily. The moment you are able to forgive and forget, your heart automatically is not keeping a malice for anybody. The moment your heart is not keeping a malice for everybody or anybody, you are cleaning up your heart. It is almost like a detox. At the most, you are angry with somebody for 1 day, 2 day, or something like that. But after that, you sort of let it go. And that is a very, very important understanding of taking that positivity of Surya, not keeping that high ego, not being on that high horse that, hey, I'm Mr. Somebody. No, you are Mr. Nobody. You're just a small dot on that whole world map. And that is the way you should look at it, that, there will be people around who will keep telling you all the great things. But you need to know that, hey, calm down. You are just a small dot. You are just a small fly in this whole world. Imagine the whole world population. So it is a very important thing to keep your checks and balances. You have to be that positive Surya. You have to be that positive Agni, which is going to light other people's house rather than burn anybody's house. You see, sometimes in a dark, if a lamp is burning, it looks so beautiful, and then you feel like, just looking at that lamp, my goodness, based on the ability or the amount of Agni it has, or the amount of ghee or the oil that it has, it is trying its best to light that particular area of the room. So all we need to ask or request to God is that, hey, give me more oil, give me the ghee, give me more energy to radiate and impact a bigger area of the world. Let me be your messenger, let me sort of do that good work, or let me be the nimitta for doing the work which is anyways your work. I'm just a messenger, I'm just, part of the whole sort of a delivery guy. The product is you. Product has been given by you. The knowledge is yours. I am just a courier guy, trying to deliver it, probably to the happiness of the person who is receiving it. And if I can do that well, then I'm happy about it. If I can't do that well, then I'm going to learn to do it well. And that should be the humbleness with which a Surya always looks at life, rather than having an ego and thinking that, hey, I'm the greatest astrologer. How dare you talk to me like that? How dare you don't call me a Pandit? How dare you don't call me with certain designations? I'm this Vedic guru and this Bhaskaracharya and gold medalist and silver medalist. Sometimes we see certain astrologers, who have so much of huge designations. Gold medalist here, gold medalist there, from this school, from that school. And finally, there will be the name attached to it. And sometimes you feel that, my goodness, that is so much of burden to carry. Probably I don't want to carry that burden. So I always tell people that, hey, please call me Karthik. You understand? Because the more designations you keep on yourself, the more you sort of trying to play at God, the more karmas you are taking, and the more you are making yourself relevant. Whereas you are just a small dot trying to do some good work. And my advice to you all on this beautiful day of Rishi Panchami would be that, hey, The day you feel that you are flying high, cut yourself down. Stay away from a lot of adulation. Take that as a prasad which is coming to you because you are just lucky and you are doing your work sincerely. Don't let it go to your head. Karaka is Surya. So the only thing that goes to your head is the work that has to be done. The only thing that goes to your head is what has to be achieved. The only thing that goes to the head is how can I make my guru and my parampara ensure that they are happy with me, or my Gurudev is proud of me. And once you have that sort of a mission, then automatically, with that fourth house being clean, automatically things sort of go to the next level. And by the time you have realized, you are able to sort of do some fantastic predictions. You are able to actually help people not only at a monetarily level, but also increase them as a human being. They are a better human being after they have come in contact with you. And that is the perfect Jyotisha. That is the perfect Surya. That is what I want you all to become. Okay. Now, let us understand more importantly, the Navagraha part of it. Now that we have understood the Surya and the importance of that sun god, we need to understand a very, very important basic fact. A lot of time, we feel that, when we look at the sky, etc., we feel that, hey, what is happening in the sky? Which are the grahas? Which are the nakshatras? What is moving? Is the moving part the graha or the moving part is the nakshatras? The answer is that, hey, nakshatras are all fixed, but it is the planet or the graha which is moving inside the nakshatras. And by now you all know that there are 27 nakshatras. Okay, there is that Abhijit 28th nakshatra also, but there is 27 nakshatras and each nakshatra has 4 padas. And that is how the zodiac is formed. And the graha technically is moving inside the whole nakshatra scheme. In future, we are going to talk about it. We are going to understand at length because that is a beautiful subject as well. Okay, the fixed part of it, is the tamas part of it. So hence, when we understand the Rashi Drishti and Graha Drishtis, we'll understand that the fixed signs are a lot of tamas because nothing is moving. It is like, if a planet or a water doesn't move, then technically, it starts stinking and it almost then becomes a gutter. It starts smelling, it is completely, it has to be covered, because there is no movement happening. Everything is sort of getting waterlogged over there. That is almost like a fixed sign. And hence there is a lot of tamas coming out of it. We always say that within our heart also, the moment everything is inside our heart, to that level, that is the amount of venom we are created. The moment we speak it out, the moment we sort of let it go, is the time that venom is not being created and we don't have a heart issue or a heart attack. A lot of people have this emotional issue where they don't tell anything to anybody, but there is a lot of things which they keep in their heart. And that creates that tamas. And then that creates a poison and that affects your heart. Okay, it is also a medical sort of a understanding of the whole concept. Whereas the moving rashis are full of rajas, which is fantastic for creation. Hence all the movable signs, which are the movable signs, which is Aries, Cancer, Libra and Capricorn. They are very good for creation. And one of the prediction which I gave based on this COVID medicine was also based on this Rajas theory. You can look at the YouTube and understand what I meant to say. But it is very important to understand that a lot of times people look at this Rajas as a very negative thing. That, hey, necessity is a need of creation or the mother of creation. If I don't need a vaccine, I will never create a vaccine for COVID. If I don't need a PPE kit, I will never create it. And then from there, the creation takes at a very different level. Hey, can I have a mask with my company logo, to ensure that, within that I can brand my company also. Now that is the Rahu way of thinking, right? He says that, hey, anyways, you're spending $1 to make the mask. Why don't you put a logo as well and probably give it to your clients? Probably in today's time, you can, give this as a gift to your clients. So you understand, it's all rajas. But what is happening is some rajas is good and some of it is bad. But nonetheless, the creation happens because of rajas. Sometimes in that creation process, you also find a nuclear bomb being created, which can destroy the whole world. But then can we say that that is also part of the whole process of destruction, where probably God is sort of leading us towards that? And a human being is just a nimitta to actually do it. It's always a double-edged sword. You can think either ways. I leave it up to you, and probably you can share it in the comments, and probably we can debate it further. Okay, but it is nonetheless for anybody who is into a professional life, anybody who is not a yogi, and somebody who is into a public life, corporate life, who is making his bread and butter daily from a corporate life or working in a government or whatever it is, that rajas is very important. The very fact you are working, you need a new suit or a new cloth or a new tie. The moment you are working out, you need a shoe. Now within that, then the rajas starts creating, hey, I need a shoe for running, hey, I need a shoe for walking, hey, I need a shoe for playing golf. And then companies like Reebok, Adidas, they sort of understand and create different sort of soles based on which you can either walk, or this is a sole for playing golf, and this is a sole for playing soccer because it has got a grip which will grip you in the mud. So it's all rajas, but is it bad? So it's all debatable. That's what I'm saying. That you can't look at anything in a completely negative way. You can't look at anything in a positive way. Ultimately, that rajas will also be the root cause of your problem. Because 99% of the people are crying for money. 99% are crying for relationship. Why? Because that Venus and Mercury are the only two rajas grahas. So it's always about honey and money, as they say. Either relationship trauma or money trauma, or most of the times it's a combination of both. Okay, so very, very important. Don't take that rajas very lightly. Wherever you see rajas, always understand that there is a possibility of creation. And if you are an entrepreneur, if you are into business, work, etc., to that level, rajas is important. You can't say that at the 1st or the 10th of every month you are not expecting your salary to be deposited. It's unfair. You're working for money, you are working for salary, and based on that you have your expenses as well. Okay, now what we need to understand is that all the planets are working in a certain direction. Generally, it's always west to east. They are moving towards the eastern direction, except for the nodes. Nodes are always reverse, or to that level they are always retrograde. Why? Because they are born because of Ichha Shakti. In one of the videos I talked about it, probably the Q&A session, where I said that whenever a planet is retrograde, to that level it has got a lot of Ichha Shakti. Hence, whenever you see a chart, always mark the planets which are retrograde, because those are the planets which have huge karma or a huge debt or a huge Ichha coming from your past life. And those planets are going to sort of haunt you that, hey, we have an unfulfilled desire. Hey, we have an unfulfilled task. Please let us start off with it. And depending on the Charakarakas, placement, everything else, we need to understand whether that thing is positive, negative, or what is it leading to. Imagine a spiritual death, or a guy, who is extremely spiritual. He is going to die, and his desire was to actually build many temples or many church. So he's going to be reborn, and depending on that 9th house, he is going to have yogas related to 9000, that retrogression, as a result of which that person is born, and he is going to ensure that he is going to build many temples and churches or spiritual institutions, whatever it is. So what I mean to say is retrograde planet doesn't need necessarily a very negative thing. A lot of times I've seen these hashtags Mercury retrograde, and they put in everything on that. That is all typical Western astrology or fun astrology, so to say. But a retrograde Mercury doesn't need to be bad every time. Okay. Likewise, I want you to start thinking about it. Okay. And the tattvas, etc., become very important as well. The pancha tattvas become very important. We are going to do panchanga definitely in the coming weeks, and I'll give you a basic understanding of how are you supposed to actually look at the pancha tattvas. And panchanga par as a topic is such a huge topic. Believe me, it fascinates me. But what we are going to do is we are going to start off with it, and then over a period of time we'll go to step 2, step 3, etc. Okay. Now this is something what I was talking to you about. Understand that these are the nakshatras, and the grahas are technically the red line, so to say, is the nakshatras. Okay. And the grahas are sort of traveling inside the nakshatras, depending on first pada, second pada, third pada, and then what we get on the horoscope or the Rashi is actually the shadow of the graha, as we said, the eclipse part of it. What is eclipse? But eclipse is nothing but a shadow part of it, and hence it is associated with Shani, and shadow is associated with Shani. The whole Chaya Shastra or the ability to see longevity or your life based on the shadow is purely associated with Saturn. Okay, so everybody, so for all the new sort of students or complete beginners, they can know that, hey, the zodiac is 360 degrees based on the nakshatras. Okay, and then you divide it by 30, you get 12 signs. Okay, this 30 is 30 degrees of which each horoscope is going to be, or for example the nakshatra padas. Okay, so that is how you have to understand, and when you divide this into a single nakshatra, we get 27 nakshatras, and when you multiply 27 by 4, we get the magic number of 108, and hence 108 is a very, very important number for the count of a mantra or a mala. Okay, whereas mala can be either 27 bead, 54 bead, or 108 bead. My advice would be, generally when you use a mala of 54 bead, not 108 bead. Okay, why? Because generally it is a comparison of 54 beads are the devatas and the suras and asuras, something like that. So what we want to use is all the 54 heads of the devatas. Okay, so that's a big tip that I have given you today. Now we have to understand the Karaka and the Jyotish part of it. We initially understood the whole concept of the Trikalagya. Okay, now how do you understand, or how do you take that concept of Trikalagya a little forward? Okay, so first and foremost is Jyotisha is like the sun god, and hence we say that, hey, Surya is Jyotisha, always radiating, and hence I always keep saying this again and again, that once you get into astrology, once you become a Jyotishi, your primary reason for doing Jyotish has to be that you want to radiate, you want to give back, you want to learn and help people. That is the only single major reason to become an astrologer. Everything else is a byproduct. God will give you fame, God will give you money, all those things are something which are dependent, or which are all the collateral things which are happening around it. But money should never be the motivator. Money should not be the only reason, or the main reason rather, to do Jyotish. Why? Because irrespective, you are supposed to radiate. So even if you are helping somebody who is not going to pay you for a consultation, you are supposed to help them with the same zeal. You are supposed to help them with the same amount of happiness without making that person feel small. You are supposed to give them the same 100% which you would give them otherwise. Okay, which you would even give otherwise to your paying client, somebody who would pay you. Okay, it is very, very important. This is something which I want you all to understand, that your attitude at the end of the day becomes very important. Okay, secondly, you have to understand that the blockage of the light is always Shani. Okay, why? Because Shani is the shadow planet. Shani is the one who is the tamas part of it, and who is the karaka of 6, 8 and 12. The houses which can actually bring you nija dosha, shadripu, and actually stop you from getting moksha. Okay, which is opposite to Surya completely. Surya is saying that, hey, radiate and your work can actually give you moksha. Whereas Saturn says that, hey, why don't you become a lazy, take a chill pill, why do you want to do it today? That's the negative Saturn. Negative Saturn is laziness. Okay, and a negative Surya is your ego. So you need to decide which side of the Saturn and which side of Surya do you want to use. Okay, now when it comes to Trikalagya, there are 3 sets. What happens is, within an astrologer, sometimes an astrologer might be good in a certain thing but might not be good in certain thing, in terms of the power of discrimination, etc. So what happens is, when we look at Lord Shiva, whom we talk about as the Parmeshthi Guru, the one who is the Guru of the Gurus, he is Mahadev. Okay, there are various levels of Guru. Om Gurave Namah, Om Gurave Namah, Om Param Gurave Namah, Om Paratpara Gurave Namah, Om Parmeshthi Gurave Namah. So within that level of Gurus, he is the highest Guru. And he has this third eye, which I have marked in red. And what does that mean? So there are the 3 eyes which a Jyotishi should always have. The right eye is the one who is going to show the Dharma. Okay, whereas the left eye is your eye of compassion. And the third eye is that balancing factor between your Dharma and compassion, which is sort of a balancing factor. For example, somebody who might have a lot of compassion will say that, hey, what if this person has been a rapist? Let it go. Whereas the one who is going to have a Dharma is going to say that, hey, this person is a rapist, he should be put in the gallows, or he should be given a life sentence, or he must be sort of hand to death, or whatever is the rule of the land. Whereas compassion says that, hey, let us give him a chance. Probably he will understand his problem. He will understand. Let us consult him. Let us give him good guidance. Let us teach him meditation. Whereas third eye is more of a discrimination. Which is going to say that, hey, what are you trying to say? If we sort of start giving these things to the rapist, what is the rule that we are benchmarking? Every other guy is going to feel that, hey, I won't be hanged. So there is an element of fear which has to be there. So it is that Jupiter which is that third eye, which is going to give you that balancing factor. Sometimes you need that compassion, right? Every time somebody makes a mistake, you can't sort of let them down. You can't sort of be very rough on them. You can't be very harsh on them. So to that level, compassion is very important. But sometimes, when you have too much of compassion, there is a problem that, the problem might come to your doorstep very soon because you are too compassionate. Like Prithviraj Chauhan. Imagine somebody trying to attack Somnath or trying to attack your country, and you let go of that person 16 times. And the 17th time, he's defeating you, and he doesn't make that mistake that you made the mistake. And he takes you to his country, and he's going to take out your eye. He made you blind, and he ultimately everybody knows what happened. So you understand? So what happened? There was too much of compassion. Just because the other person said, sorry, I won't do it again, you let it go. The second time he came, he said, sorry, let me go. You let him go. You did that for 15, 16 times. So if you would have that third eye of understanding and opened up, you would have understand that, hey, my dharma as a king is that, hey, I can't let that go because he's a threat to my security. And it's not just about me, but my nation and my rajya or my state, whatever it is. So what I mean to say is this third eye becomes stronger and stronger when you start meditation. It is that intuitiveness. It is that power of discrimination between the right and wrong, or getting that balanced view. In every situation they say that, hey, it is your point of view, my point of view, and the truth. Right? We have heard this before. So that third part is the third eye. And hence I always say that, hey, your mantras and meditations are very important. I'm not saying that do the mantras for 10 hours a day and meditate for 4 hours a day, but at least keep that 1 hour of a day, which is so important. That 30 minutes, 45 minutes for your health and for your physical health, and that 45 minutes, 1 hour for your mental health. So that 1.5 to 2 hours a day is when you have to keep it to do your physical and your mental health. So your Surya and your Chandra both are perfect. Once they are perfect, then Raj Yogas will be created and they will be sustained. Clients will not only come to you, but they will come to you again and again, and they will like what you are doing. So a Raj Yoga has created and sustained. As simple as that. Right? Most of you or most of the people around or entrepreneurs have this problem when they are able to get a client, but they are never able to retain a client. Sometimes it is the reverse problem. They are good at retaining, but the problem is the clients come very slowly to them. So at one place there is a Surya problem, the other place there is a Chandra problem. You understand? This is how you have to understand it at a high level. Now, what we need to understand is also this concept of Chatura Lagna. Chatur means 4. Okay, and it technically says that, hey, there are 4 kendras in a horoscope. Okay, the Lagna or the first house is called as Udaya Lagna. You know why? It is the rising. We wake up every day and it is the rising sun. Whereas the 10th house is your Akash Lagna, which is when sun is at the midpoint over your head. It is the afternoon time, and that is the time when we are at work in our office, or at least let us put it that way, that we should be at work and in our office rather than sleeping. Whereas the 7th house is your Astha Lagna. That is the time when we were planning to go back. That is the planned time when we are retiring. That is the time we are replying to our final emails and putting our probably automated responder. Why? Because that is the time when you feel that, hey, I've worked very hard throughout the day. Now I want to rest. Or I'm going to sort of meet my friends and, probably going to spend time with my family, or I'm planning to watch a nice sort of a show on Netflix or whatever it is. But that is the time when the sun is setting. Whereas in the morning time, the time when you get up is the time when you are supposed to plan things, or we are already planning. We look at our calendar and we see that, okay, there are 4 meetings over here, and I need to do this also. I need to plan my EMI also. I have to pay my credit card bills. All these things we do in the morning. Probably call a few people and all those things. Whereas evening part is when we are settling down or probably planning a little for the next day. We quickly look at our calendar, what is there in the next day coming up. Why? Because we are already retiring. And the 10th house is Jala Lagna. It is more of your emotional thing. By that time, you already left the office and you are at home with your partner, you're with your wife, with your friends, or you're going out for a quiet dinner or something like that. and then you are sleeping and you are ready to wake up. So it is very important that these four are the pillars of your life. If any part of the activity is when you are not doing it, you feel that your life is not okay. For example, you wake up but you don't know when to go to the office because you have lost your job, or when you don't have home to go to, you don't have a plan of action, it is evening time, or when you are overworking or you are skipping the house. 10th house is when you don't find any peace at home, you're not going along well with your partner or wife, or generally you don't like going to the home. So either of these places going wrong is a problem, and they are all in a way interconnected with each other, and best when done in a certain fashion. Otherwise, your whole life is a chaos, right? It is very important, and this is also to be seen from each house. So for example, for the second house, the sixth house is also fourth from there, 1 2 3 4, right? So you need to look at the Kendra houses from every house, look at the 4, look at the 7th, and look at the 10th house from every house, and understand that which are the Kendra houses from every houses. For example, all dual houses are all in Kendras to each other. But when all the fixed signs, generally we say, Taurus, you look at Leo, you look at Scorpio, and then you look at Aquarius, they are all in Kendra to each other. So they all support each other. Or if there is any part of the activity which is not happening properly, or if that house is going through a great transition or a bad yoga, then to that level, the Kendra houses are afflicted, because that activity is not getting completed. So it might be for financial reasons, it might be for relationship issues, it might be for health issues. Your heart is not pumping properly, or you have a liver issue, or you have an issue with procreation, you are not able to have child. There are so many things which you can see, whether from the Kendras are supporting you or the Kendras are in conflict with each other. That's why a major remedial tip for you is that, hey, always look at a benefic in Kendra, especially from the Lagna. Because even if we have one benefic planet in the Kendra, that one benefic can actually help you throughout your life to fight you out. Okay, so these are the tips we always see in remedial measures also. And generally we always see, especially in the Lagna, very lucky people, who have at least one benefic in Lagna. Very, very unfortunate or very, very tough life when the malefic planets are all in the Kendras. It causes a Sarpa dosha, not Kala Sarpa, it's a different sort of a dosha. Okay, likewise we can understand. Again over here, from if you look at the East Indian chart, I have given you the whole concept of tripod of life. Based on the Udaya Lagna, we can also see the trines, because these trines are the financial support or the luck factor which is coming to the Lagna. Similarly, the trines to the 4th house, which is the 8th house and the 12th house, are the trines to the 4th house. Now I know that I'm giving you certain high logic, but it is time that I need to upgrade you all to level 2, level 3 slowly. These are all tough to understand very first time. You will have to go through the video a couple of times, and surely ask your questions in the comment section, and I'll be happy to sort of answer them. But what I mean to say is, you can't forget the concept of Kendra, and you can't understand, and you can't let go of the concept of trine, because Kendras are Vishnu sthanas. They are very important for your sustenance, and trines are Lakshmi sthanas. You do your financial planning based on the trines. Now this concept can be taken to higher level and in a very, very deeper length. Okay, And I'm not getting into too much of detail, but I've sort of positioned a very, very important concept in front of you. Okay. Now, this is something that I wanted to share with you. I've talked about it once before, but I want you all to sort of understand what I'm going to do now. First and foremost, as you see, there is a sort of a reverse thing which is happening. Generally the houses go from Lagna, second house, third house, but over here the time is sort of moving in the reverse. And that is what happens. When we look at the sky, when we feel, it is almost like when you're traveling in a train, then rather than you moving forward, you feel that the other things are moving backwards. But they are not moving backwards, they are still there. But when a train is moving very fast, you feel that actually the trees are going behind you. But the fact of the matter is that's not happening. You are moving forward. It almost happens in the same way as far as Surya is concerned and the timing part of it is concerned. Okay, so what happens is, to that level we have no problem when we say that, hey, Surya is sunrise. So roughly let us take the morning 6 a.m. as sunrise. Okay, so every 2 hours the Lagna is going to change. Okay, so that's why I've given a difference of 2 hours. So 6 a.m. is the time when we are supposed to rise in the morning. That's the time when Surya is in the Lagna, and that is the time when you're supposed to sort of do your morning things. So your 6 a.m. to almost 10 a.m., 9:30, 10, is the time when you're supposed to do your morning things, your chanting, your day planning, etc. All those things should start or end between sort of 5:30 to almost 9:30. And 12th house is your spirituality as well, your meditation as well. So this particular block of 2 houses is the best time in the morning to do your spiritual practices. Whereas the 10th house or 10 a.m. in the morning is when the sun reaches almost your 11th house of gains. So that period from probably 9:30, 10 to almost 11:30 is the time when you sort of set up your meetings or set up your next days or sort of do your important thing for that day. A very, very important networking meeting or very important sort of email that you need to reply to. Why? Because it is in the 11th house of gain. So generally you don't use this for your conflict management. So you don't sort of speak to your clients who are sort of going to be a big headache for you. These are the times when you speak to clients who are very profitable, or clients through whom you have just given a quote, or you are doing a follow-up or something like that. Or you speak to your friends, just to because 11th house is also your friends. So very, very important friend, you need to talk, you need to sort of get a perspective of whatever it is, those are the right things to do. Or sign an important agreement, sign up something, which is going to be beneficial to you. Those things definitely you can do during this period from 9:30 onwards, or roughly 10 to 11:30. 12 o'clock is something, which is your best time. Frankly speaking, 12 to this 3:34 is something, is the time when you should be working your most. Why? Because sun is in the 10th house in Digbala. So this is the time, and in the 9th house of luck or dharma. So these 2 houses are very important when you sort of do all your main strategic work. Major meetings, major follow-ups, major presentations. It also says that, hey, you need to be in the office, or you need to be officially properly at work during this period. A lot of times I see that, hey, just when people become entrepreneurs, they become lazy and they become very lethargic, or they start working on a different time zone altogether. Whereas if you miss this part of the day, then frankly speaking, it's not a good thing. The worst part is, when you sleep during this part of the day, it's even worse, because then you are making your Agni very, very negative. Okay, so this part of the day, I would again reiterate, is a very, very good time, and it's a very, very productive time. Let's say somebody has lost a job, definitely, this is the time which can be used. Let's say somebody needs to talk to a father, or a boss, then, definitely this is the time that can be used. Now I'm putting the karakas of human beings, where it says younger brother, elder brother, you need to talk to your sort of work colleagues, etc. Those things are good. When you want to talk to your family, this is the time which is good, because you are sort of, de-stressing yourself. If you're doing your future planning, it is a good time to think about it in those time zones. Okay, whereas this period of 6th house is, or rather 8th house, is the time of transformation. So all your difficult decisions, all your things, which you need to do, or sort of let go of a certain thing, then this is a period which is a good period, roughly 4 to 6. Or do a transformational work or a planning thing related to the next day. That can also be done over here. And this is a time which is 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. roughly, is the time when you are retiring for your work. So morning time you are completely thinking about that same day, whereas starting 6 p.m. you start thinking about the next day. Why? Because that Surya for that day is already Astha. It's already in the 7th house. So it's almost like you are done for that day, and whatever the problems, whatever the good and bad that has happened during that day, you are going to put that in the next day's calendar, sort of to do a follow-up, which you will again revisit at 6 a.m. in the morning. So you understand, how beautifully, just by the transit of sun through the day, you can easily plan your day. Now again a tip, depending on brilliant yogas that you have, you can also use those strategic periods during that day. Let's say somebody has a Simhasana yoga, where let's say Lagna Lord is in the 10th house, second Lord is in the 10th house, or Siddhi yoga, let's say Lagna Lord in the 10th house, then to that level, that 10th house becomes a super thing. Let's say somebody has a great yoga in the 11th house, definitely a great time. Let's say somebody has a Gajkeshri in the morning time, definitely a great time to sort of post their YouTube video or to post a Facebook post. Why? Because that can actually give them great fame. Here I'm talking about a strategy even for social media, or whatever you're doing good. Sometimes somebody might say that, hey, Karthik, I don't have any planets on this side. Does that mean that I don't work? Or do I work in the night? Hey, you also have lords. Look at the lordship. Look at the yogas. Look at the good drishtis happening on a particular house. And you can sort of target a particular house as your best time of the day. And you can put a cross to a certain house, which is the worst part of your day. So during that part of the day, generally you avoid speaking to somebody, because unnecessarily you are creating conflicts for yourself, or you are getting into an unnecessary argument with a client or with a friend or whatever it is, because that particular house has got a lot of curses functional. It's easy, but yet it is tough. But once you get it, then you will understand that which zones of the day are very good for me, which zones of the day I cannot be away from work. Why? Because all my good karmas are coming to help me during that particular day of the life, at that particular span of the day. You can also later on look at the tithis. Certain planet is giving you great Raj Yogas, then particularly the Graha tithis are also important days when you could start a new thing or end a new thing or whatever it is. You understand? So that is something which is very, very important. And then from 8 p.m. onwards, if you see, we are almost retiring for the day. So we have our dinner. See, this is the fifth house. So generally you talk about 9:30 to 11:30. Generally we shouldn't delay our food beyond that. Generally fifth and sixth house are very important for digestion. The second house from there is something which is going to digest your food. So a lot of research has proved that eat your food by 8 p.m. or the earlier we eat the food in the evening, better it is for your metabolism and better it is for your intermediate fasting or all those terms which are being used. The more you sort of delay it through the night, the worse it is for your body, and you might put on weight, you might have a problem digesting, you might not be able to sleep on time. Why? Because your food is not getting enough time to churn out before the next day. So you see, this is very logical what is being shown to you today. And then this is a 12 a.m. sort of a midnight thing, and I would like to say that this fourth house is the house of home. And I dare say that if you are not reaching your home before midnight on a regular basis, there is a problem to your home which is going to come sooner than later. Now this is except for people who are working on in sort of night shifts or working in call centers, etc. For them the chart is almost reverse. Okay, but for a normal person, if a person or a husband or a wife is regularly coming late and post 11:30 to 2 o'clock regularly, it will break the house. And there is something fishy, and to a large extent I would say there is a legitimate reason for that husband or wife to be worried about, because based on this chart it says that, hey, you need to be home latest by 11:30. You can't be working beyond this, and then technically you should be over here. Why? Because you are here, you are with your kids, you are planning your next day, you are writing your notes or things to be done tomorrow, you are having a good time, you are sort of reinventing for the next day, you are the future for the next day. You see the fifth house, which is going to give an input to your next day. And then slowly you sleep, and generally this is the 4 a.m. So generally between 4 to 6 in the morning is when you are supposed to wake up, and that's where this 5 a.m. club is there, which is exactly the Brahma Muhurta, which is almost roughly 90 minutes before the sunrise. So if 6 a.m. is the sunrise, then the Brahma Muhurta is going to start roughly at 4:30 a.m. So if you wake up anytime between 4:30 to 5:30, then technically you are waking up on the Brahma Muhurta, you are waking up before sunrise, and then you can plan your day very, very beautifully and look at the very, very strategic points where you have great yogas based on which you can move towards your prosperity. So I've given you a very, very logical and very, very strong tool based on which you can actually plan your day and going forward plan your life as well. And then later on I'm going to teach you some other ways to plan as well in the sessions going forward. Okay, so if you have liked this, then definitely share your comments, and definitely I would like you to start using it and keep updating. Let us know how is it working. Does it actually work for you? If it's not working, let us know why it's not working, and do you have a logical understanding of why it's not working? Probably are you picking up the wrong time zone? Look at the lordships, look at the aspects. But I'm telling you, even with 50% accuracy or 50% of Jyotish knowledge, if you start using this strategically, it is going to help you a lot to sort of bring some sanity to your life and being very productive in your life as well. Okay. Now let us look for one example. I have looked at the chart of US President Donald Trump. Okay, and he's Leo Lagna with Mangal in Lagna. Okay, and there is one yoga which is associated with his Arudha Lagna, and that is this debilitated Chandra with Ketu. And this is quite a yoga. He is born in an eclipse. I always say that, please, even in the current period, when the whole world is saying that, hey, Donald Trump will lose, don't take this guy out of your context. He is not an easy guy to defeat, believe me. And I'm telling this on record. Don't write him off. He can bounce back, and he has bounced back before. I remember in the last election, I had given a very famous prediction, when he was almost 20 points to Hillary Clinton being 79 or 80 points. And I told when Sun will reach Virgo is the time when he is going to become the president and he will win the election. And he did win. So what I'm planning to say is he is born in a perfect eclipse yoga. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a spiritual chart. Now this guy is a little different to him. And do you need to be a little different when it comes to politics? The answer is yes. You can't be a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and be a politician, right? Everybody agrees that. Now, look at this particular combination and this period. This is said to be a mentally Chandra. Chandra means your emotions. When it is in debility, we can say that this guy might have a little problem with communication. Okay? Or sometimes weak communication. Or Ketu is a mistake, or he does a communication in speed, fast, or he can be really ruthless. Ketu is radical as well, right? We talked about it before in the Navagraha video. And there is this Arudha Lagna also associated. See, whenever Arudha Lagna is associated with Kendra, person is very, very finicky about his image, very image conscious or very sensitive. So the moment somebody says anything wrong to Donald Trump, he has to give it back in the at least the least proportion, or into 2 or into 3. Or he can be really very, very blunt in his comments, be it with Kamala Harris or be it with Joe Biden. If you look at his Twitter, he is somebody who communicates very, very straight. Okay, and then there is another yoga which is Rahu and Surya also, which is the midnight. So can we say this midnight and midday is a time when, if he is going to communicate, then technically he is going to have a little he's going to be too direct, or sometimes he can really be very strong. And in Lagna also we see there is this Mangal in Lagna. So by default, he is a person, who is going to really give it a Mangal, even in the morning time. So can we pick up, or can we as a research, can you all start doing a research based on his Twitter timeline and understand generally which are the times when he tweets, which are the general times when he is going to communicate. And I'm sure that he communicates in a different phase of days. So pick up quotes, when he is, let's say, quoting in the late evening time. Pick up the quotes or the tweets when he's tweeting in the midday, or let's say between 10 to 2 period, or early morning before 8 a.m. So let us look at this, and it would be a nice sort of an understanding, nice sort of a research, where you can start commenting on this particular chart and understand what is good for him, what is not good for him. Can he be very lethal? The answer is yes. You rub him the wrong way, he is not going to let it go. Because the moment if you are going to talk about it, he will give you in equal and more strength. Why? Because per se he is born in a perfect eclipse. He is born with Mangal, and to a large extent, he is in a Jupiter Dasha. You understand? So you can sort of understand this chart in detail, okay, and understand what is happening. Is this combination of Surya and Rahu good for politics? I would say it is fantastic. Surya is his Lagnesh in the 10th house, and that is causing a super sort of a yoga, right? So a person who is constantly having a thing about his work, Surya is all about politics, it's all about government. And there is Rahu, so this guy has sort of used politicians, sort of even used politics to sort of grow in his life, be it in his properties and all those things. Okay, so I would not get into the details, but what I wanted to share today is this whole concept of how to use Surya and how to use the transit of Surya through the day, before we understand transits at a higher level, and I'm sure it has been of a great value to you. I want you all to start learning more. I want you all to start deciding, and I want you all to start sort of uh, imagining this chart and using this particular way to plan your day. Let's give an upper limit of 1 month. For a month, you see how it works out, and then let us share your experiences in the comment section, and it will be a nice sort of a debate, which we can take it forward. Thank you so much, and see you all soon. Namah Shivaya. Namaste Jyotisha lovers. Thank you so much for viewing the video. Please do share so more and more thirsty souls can benefit from this free knowledge which is being shared. Also do subscribe, click the bell icon, and all the questions that you have, please mention in the comment section below. Thank you so much, and please keep supporting us.